Hi, I'm Lindsay, a business coach who's here to help ambitious business owners just like you grow with intention, not overwhelm. If we haven't met before, welcome to my playlist, A Balanced Approach to Business Growth. A playlist I created because I don't believe that success should come at the detriment to your health and your well-being, to your relationships. I don't believe you should have to sacrifice your evenings and your weekends. And this series I've created isn't about pushing you to do more. In fact, it's the complete opposite. I want you to slow down. I want you to be more intentional. I want you to create a business that aligns with who you are, a business that supports what matters most to you and moves you forward in a way that genuinely feels good. Now, today I want to talk about freedom-led success. What that is, how you can get it. That probably won't surprise you that, it's a phrase that I absolutely love because we should be creating businesses that create freedom, freedom of time, freedom of choice. But quite often, what I see is business owners creating a business that is anything but freedom. There is no freedom. It is squeezing the last minute out of every hour. So let me set the scene for you and see if anything resonates. Perhaps you have that creeping feeling or sense that the business you've built or are building doesn't feel like yours anymore. Perhaps it looks really successful from the outside. You've got clients, you're doing work, you're invoicing, people are paying you. But inside it feels really heavy. And I love the word heavy. And I use heavy and clunky a lot in my writing and when I'm doing these videos, because it's that sense of, and it really explains it well. Perhaps the business just feels really noisy and you can't find a moment's peace to think, to work on the business, to develop the business. Or maybe it just all feels a bit off. Maybe you're doing all the things, showing up online, delivering for clients, putting the hours in, but it's not translating. It's not translating to consistent income. Or you're creating momentum, but it doesn't last. So it's like being constantly on a treadmill or in a hamster's wheel. And it's exhausting. Whichever of those scenarios resonates, it can feel really exhausting and leave you wondering why you even started this business, why you started on this journey. Equally, it can happen without us noticing. We're picking up strategies and habits and goals from, all the latest influencers who are out there pointing at things and telling us what we should and shouldn't be doing. And I say we because I've definitely done all that. It can happen without us noticing all that information that's coming in, and suddenly we're measuring our progress against a checklist that we didn't even write. And I've absolutely done this. I remember working with a coach many, many years ago now, who sort of was talking about you need to talk about the journey, where you move them from, and take your clients to six figures, and wasn't comfortable using the six-figure part. Then I realized I was already working with clients who were multiple six-figure business owners, hadn't got them to that point, but they valued my services, they valued my coaching, they put me at that place where they knew that I could support and serve them at that level. So eventually I kind of got comfortable with this six-figure malarkey. And then suddenly everyone was talking about seven figures. I was like, hang on a minute, I haven't got my head around six. And then we were off to eight figures. And it was just this constant. I was like, hang on a minute, because the number's not important to me. And it took a long time for me to get to that point where I could confidently let go of that messaging, because actually it's not about taking my clients. It's, certainly in this moment, on this day, at this time, it's not about supporting my business owners to move to six figures, because they might not want six figures, and hold that thought because I'm going to come back to that. But there's no but, and I hate that word but. I also want you to know that however you're feeling, whichever scenario resonated with you, I want you to know that you are not doing it wrong, and you haven't missed some secret formula, but it might be time to hit pause. It might be time to have a fresh look at what you're building and why. And that's what I want to help shift for you today. Because I want you to reconnect with what you want, not what the influencers say you want, not what everyone's pointing at, not what the latest trend is, what you want. Because that's the only way that you will build a business that genuinely supports the life you want to live, rather than one that dictates it. So I want to help you explore what freedom-led success means, what might be getting in the way, and how you can experience it, how you can start to shape a business that enables you to live a freedom-led, successful life and business. So what is this freedom-led success that I talk of? So freedom-led success is about creating a business that feels aligned with the life you want to live, not just the version of business that looks good on paper or impresses the algorithm. It's knowing what's important to you, whether it's flexibility, creative freedom, being available for your family, or simply having the space to take a breath without feeling guilty. And I've absolutely worked with a client that the main purpose of working with me was because she wanted time to be more creative in her business. She lacked time to be creative. She lacked time to look after her health and well-being. That was our goal, to create a business, to design a business model that gave her both time freedom to be creative, but also time freedom to look after her health and well-being. And I'm pleased to say that we achieved that. So it could be working 3 days a week. It could be time so that you can go to the gym in the morning, so you can do Pilates at lunchtime, so you can go for a walk every afternoon, so you don't have to work Friday afternoons, whatever this freedom looks like for you. And you can see that I'm really focused on time because I don't want you to get stuck on this money piece, because you don't have to have money to start experiencing freedom. It's a choice. So freedom for you might be working less. It might be turning down opportunities that don't sit right. Yes, so this is a different type of freedom. This is the freedom to say no to stuff that doesn't feel aligned, stuff that you don't want to do, stuff that just doesn't feel right, even when it comes at a very tempting price tag. It might even be redefining what enough means to you. And that's certainly something that I had to do. I was going after this figure that I thought I needed to achieve on a monthly basis, and therefore quite a large annual target. It's what I thought everyone expected, and I could make those figures work. Whatever I was going to earn, I could spend that money. Absolutely, no problem at all. But what I came to realize is I was chasing something that wasn't just more than enough. It was like crazy, wild enough. And it was putting a huge amount of pressure on me. Now, I was going after somebody else's dream. I was going after a number or a figure that I thought I should be going after because that's what was expected of me and that's what everyone was talking about, but that wasn't the case. And that being okay with not going after this huge figure, it wasn't because I lacked ambition. And it certainly doesn't mean that you lack ambition if you only want to work 3 days a week. Hey, I'm all over any client that says, I only want to work 3 days a week, Lindsey, and I want to still earn the same. All over that. I want to work 3 days a week, Lindsey, and I want to work more. I am there for that. Because that's about saying, I want freedom. It's also saying that you want to be intentional about your time and your energy. You've still got goals. You've still got financial goals. You've still got ambitions for your business, but you want to get there in a different way, and that's okay. Because they're your goals, because you are tapping into what's important to you. And freedom-led success feels calmer. I know I get really excited and really animated, so I'm not really helping with the calm vibe here, but it feels calmer because it's grounded. It's grounded in what's important to you. It doesn't mean that it's easy, okay? And I think that's an important point to make, but it will feel more aligned. and personal. And so therefore it will feel easier in the respect that you'll want to give your time to it. You will more easily find the time to give to it. So this way of working gives you space to build from a place of clarity, not comparison. And when you do that, the decisions you make become less reactive and far more meaningful. And I know I talk about decisions and the importance of direction and clarity because it makes the decisions easier, but I'm beginning to think I just need to do one video on decisions. But for now, what stops us from creating this freedom-led business? And I don't believe it's one thing, could be a number of things. First of all, though, you do need to know what it is you want, what's important to you, what success looks and feels like. What's your six figures? Okay, which may or may not be six figures. It might be 5 figures, 4-day week. It might be 5 figures, 4-day week and only working term time. I'm using those examples not because I believe that everyone who watches these videos has children, but because they're a really great they're really great examples to use, and it makes it much easier, I think, for people to start getting creative and thinking about what they truly want. So the first thing, I guess, what gets in the way is not knowing where you're going. And also around that of thinking that this is expected, so I can't really go after what I want. I think there's a lot there around expectation, around comparison, about worrying what others will think. And we live in a culture that celebrates constant motion. Do more, be more, scale faster. You're told to set bigger goals. Follow those formulas. You know, the ones I talk about, 10 steps to being a millionaire by a week last Thursday. You know, you're told to keep showing up, to keep pushing. And if it doesn't work, it leaves you feeling that you're not trying hard enough. And all of this is completely exhausting. It's also misleading because success, real success, doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from making conscious decisions, slowing down when you need to, and knowing what matters most to you. But that's not what we're taught. We're taught to keep going, to stay visible, to prove our value through our output, to keep going, which makes it really hard to pause, really hard to stop, really hard to get off that wheel of motion, really hard to give ourselves permission and a few moments to ask, is this even the direction I want to be going? So if you're feeling disconnected or stuck, it's not because you failed. It's probably because you've been trying to meet expectations that were never really yours. Or that over the years, over time, you've started to go after a vision that's not yours. It's what others expect. So what can you do to start creating this freedom-led success that I've been banging on about? How do you start to move towards something that feels like yours? Because it is possible and it doesn't have to be traumatic. I know I'm quite dramatic when I'm talking, but I promise you, it doesn't have to be dramatic. The first step, and I've already alluded to it, I've already mentioned it, is clarity. Not the kind that comes from another online course or someone else's blueprint. The kind that comes from slowing down and listening to yourself and asking yourself questions like, what does a good week feel like for me? What does a good week look like? More importantly, what do I want a good week to look and feel like? What do I actually want from this business? Not what I think others are expecting, or not what others say, others in inverted commas, but what do you want? And where are you saying yes out of habit or fear or guilt, and not out of alignment? These questions might not give you immediate answers, but they open the door to something much more grounded and sustainable. Then look at where these things can be simplified. What are you holding on to because you feel like you have to? Marketing is a great example. What marketing are you doing because you have to? These YouTube videos, they're a really good example. It was a passion project. I wanted to get started. I wanted to do more video. I wanted to have more fun along the way. Have I been consistent? I don't think I published a video last week. Possibly maybe the week before that. It's not about how, doing everything, because if I'm not consistent, the world will end and the algorithm will go against me. Who cares? Who cares? Marketing is a really great example. How can you simplify? What do you need to do less of? What can you do more of what you love? How can you make space for more of what you love from a marketing perspective, for example? Where things got really complicated, I mentioned at the beginning the word clunky. I use that a lot because I think if you can, no, I think, I absolutely know. Why I said think, I don't know. I absolutely know that if you can look for those areas in your business that feel clunky, a little bit heavy, don't run very smoothly, there is work to be done there. And if you can smooth that out, there is a high chance you will improve your bottom line. You will most likely create time for yourself. There is a possibility that you'll smooth things for not only you and your business, but your client. And they're really important, the most important. Equally, we often create systems and offers and routines that made sense at one point, okay? But for some reason, we keep them even after they stop working. In part because change feels really hard. Also, I think there is a piece where we just keep doing them because we've always done them and, we haven't got time to work out what we need to do instead. But the reality is letting go of what no longer fits is often the thing that creates the space you need. Finally, when you're making decisions, whether that's pricing, marketing, your calendar, who you work with, try asking yourself, does this support the life I want to build? Or is it pulling me further away from it? These small, quiet adjustments. And that's what I mean, I think we have to make big changes. So often we don't. Sometimes there is something quite large that needs to work on. Most of the time, for most of us, it's small, quiet adjustments that, when done consistently, create a business that feels more like you. And that, my friend, is what freedom-led success is all about. The key thing I want you to take away is that you can choose how your business works. I know. Life-changing. But we forget it's our business, we forget it's our rules, and we forget that we can create something that works for us. So you can choose the pace, the clients, the offers, the hours, the goals, the values that guide it all. You. Now, of course, all that I'm talking about doesn't happen overnight. Even though, with those quiet changes, it's going to take a little time. Even with big change, it's going to take time. But it does start with giving yourself permission to pause, reflect, and ask what you want from all of this. And if that feels hard to do on your own, and it can, you don't have to. If you're craving space, clarity in a business that fits your life instead of running it, I'd love to help. Now, you can book a clarity coaching call. It's space to take stock of where you are, to get clear on what matters so that you can begin to make those all-important decisions that you will act upon. Now, this is no pressure, no jargon. This is just you and I having a conversation about what's possible when you stop chasing and start choosing. And at the very least, you'll walk away with 2 to 3 things that you can change in the business, or perhaps are linked to how you change your mindset. But I promise you, you will walk away with 2 to 3 things that you can do that will make a difference. So thank you for joining me and spending some of your precious time with me again today. If this has stirred something in you, even a little, even just a little bit, okay, so it could be different. I want you to sit with it. I want you to ask those questions, ask yourself those questions, or rather answer those questions. And I'll make sure I put them below this video along with a link to my diary. You might equally find my Supercharge Your Focus workbook. Now, I know you might be going, Lindsey, you're talking about supercharging your focus, but weren't you talking about slowing down? Download the workbook. You might be surprised. And just follow the steps and answer the questions and see where you go. I'm smiling because I know it will help you slow down. One last thing. Freedom-led success isn't a perfect plan or a finish line. It's a way of working and living that prioritizes what's important to you. And the more you tune into that, the easier it becomes to create a business that you actually want to be in. I hope this helped. Thank you again for joining me. Until next time. Take a moment to decide what you really want.